Good morning again to family and friends of Command Sergeant Major Aaron Palmquist. I am Captain King. It is my absolute pleasure to be the narrator for today's retirement ceremony honoring the service of Command Sergeant Major Aaron Palmquist as he retires after 40 years of service. We are gathering to thank him for his contributions to our great nation, the United States Army Reserve. This retirement ceremony represents a culmination of a distinguished career of military service to the United States in support of our nation's freedom. It also pays tribute to the sacrifices and professional excellence that have traditionally been key to the greatness and, at times, the survival of the United States of America. Your presence today not only reflects your appreciation for Command Sergeant Major Palmquist's dedication to duty, but also reflects your sincere wishes and thankfulness for his exemplary career for a gratifying future. Feel free to take as many photographs of the ceremony as you wish. Following the ceremony, please join Command Sergeant Major Palmquist and his family for refreshments. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the entrance of our official party. Major General, retired, Fred Mayako, Lieutenant Colonel Christy Norquist, and Command Sergeant Major Aaron Palmquist. Please remain standing for the invocation by Chaplain Estes.
I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. 2 Timothy 4:7. Let's pray. Mighty God, today we recognize your hand of providence upon Command Sergeant Major Palmquist as we celebrate his 40 years of service to our nation. We pray your continued blessing on him and his family during this next phase of their lives. May your presence be with them as they choose new paths and explore new horizons. May they be blessed with a strong network of family and friends to enjoy the journey that lies ahead. Amen.
Please be seated. Today, we honor Command Sergeant Major Aaron Palmquist's retirement after 40-plus years of faithful and dedicated service to this great nation. Joining us today is Command Sergeant Major's wife, Sarah, sons, Stephen, Josiah, and David, daughters Anna, with grandchildren Ivana and Clarine, Victoria, with granddaughter Hannah, Cassandra, and children Paul and Rachel, and 2 grandchildren not able to attend. We would also like to welcome many friends, business professionals, and colleagues who have joined us here today to show their support. Command Sergeant Major Palmquist is having a single yellow rose presented to his children. This has been a tradition that has been performed to signify their support, love, commitment, and friendship. A single white rose was placed in the middle of Sarah Jane's red rose that signified purity and commitment through everything. Ladies and gentlemen, our honored guest speaker, Major General, retired Fred Mayako.
When you get older, you need glasses. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, soldiers of the 1364 Training Support Battalion, family and friends of Command Sergeant Major Aaron Palmquist, good morning. It's a privilege to be here. Lieutenant Colonel Norquist, I want to thank you for hosting this event. The formation earlier looked fantastic, and I appreciate the unit's commitment to tough, rigorous training, which shows today in your discipline and military bearing. I thank also our First Army partners for being here and being a part of this event as well. Thank you all for attending today's events where we celebrate Command Sergeant Major Aaron Palmquist's extraordinary achievement of reaching 40 years of service to our nation in uniform. It's extraordinary. What a truly amazing accomplishment. And it's my honor to be here today with you to recognize my colleague, my former battle buddy, and now my good friend, Aaron Palmquist, as he culminates a truly amazing career and moves into retirement. To give you some sense of just how long Command Sergeant Major Palmquist has been in the Army and how old he really is, I'd like to provide just a little bit of context for the assembled group. Take a short journey with me, if you wouldn't mind, back to 1981 when Aaron graduated from high school. Now, I know that many of you soldiers may not have even been born by that time, but maybe you've learned a few of these things in history. So bear with me. I promise that it will be worthwhile, and I will link it and make it relevant to you. So let's take a quick walk back to 1981. I'll ask you a few thought-provoking questions just to get your brain working. So can you think of the top music single from 1981? And I'm going to help. I'll give you the rundown. So this was number 3 that year by Kenny Rogers, the song Lady. Number 2 that year by Diana Ross and Lionel Richie, Endless Love. And can you guess it? The top selling single, music single of 1981 by Kim Carnes, Betty Davis Eyes. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Okay. How about another one here? So what was the number 1 box office hit? So movies now in 1981. I'm going to give you the top 3 and you tell me, we'll have a show of hands, I'll call for it in a minute, which one was the top one, okay? So was it Stripes? Was it Superman 2? Or was it Cannonball Run? All right, so who thinks Stripes? Okay. Who thinks Superman 2? Show of hands. Who thinks Cannonball Run? Wrong. It was Superman 2. Actually, almost double the box office gross at $108 million. So, 1981. Were there any other notable events in geopolitics that year? Well, in July of 1981, Lady Diana Spencer married Charles, the Prince of Wales, in a wedding that captured the world's attention and was really billed as a modern-day fairy tale. In April of 1981, NASA launched the very first space shuttle mission, the Space Shuttle Columbia. And maybe more germane to our young soldiers, 1981 was the very first year that we heard the word internet. The internet was born and became commercialized in 1981. It was also the first year that MS-DOS was released by Microsoft and the very first computers were released by IBM. I remember a few years earlier than that, in 1978, when I was personally in high school learning to program in BASIC. By 1981, we just started to see computers coming into commercial production. In May of 1981, Pope John Paul II was shot by a would-be assassin. He was wounded in his left hand, his right arm, and his abdomen. And in 1981, January of 1981, President Ronald Reagan took office as our 40th president of the United States. More on geopolitics. The Soviet Union, yes, the Soviet Union, was still fully entrenched in the East, with its Eastern Bloc allies standing against NATO in the West. And our army was in a shambles in the post-Vietnam era. I know, I lived through it. Our nation was unsure what to do about national defense, and military life was neither glamorous nor attractive. In fact, in 1981, later that year, December, Poland declared a state of martial law. and the government arrested the leaders of the Solidarity Trade Union, who had been making progress in what was described heretofore as a peaceful revolution. The United States placed economic sanctions on Poland and created a move to cut off the Polish people from the rest of the world. Enough history. So at this time in young Aaron's life in 1981, he wasn't sure what he wanted to do. The world was topsy-turvy, and some of you young soldiers may be trying to figure out in your life what to do as the world maybe seems sometimes topsy-turvy to you. So the relevant question at hand is, how did a young high school graduate with little direction and little self-discipline progress over the next 40 years to the highest enlisted grade in the United States Army and become a well-respected leader in the military and in the civilian world? How did that happen? My hope is to at least provide some light into how that might have occurred. You see, in 1980, a year before that, before he graduated from high school, he met a young girl, Sarah Jane. They met at a Christian camp, and they continued to stay in touch and occasionally see each other, even in their young years. And when Aaron graduated from high school, he was trying to figure it out. He knew he really liked Sarah. He was trying to figure it out, trying to sort out a direction for his life. He knew he wanted a family, but without a job, that was highly unlikely. And so, still unsure of what he wanted to do or which direction he wanted to go, in October of 1982, Aaron enlisted in the United States Army, hopeful that the Army might provide him with just a little bit of discipline and structure for his life so that he could establish a family. A few years later, after boot camp, he graduated in 1983, and a few years later, Sarah Jane finally agreed to wed. Now, he needed to show a lot of improvement, so it took 6 years. But you see what happened by June of 1985, they married. You see what a little structure and discipline will do for you, Aaron? So what were the keys to Aaron's success, you might ask? Well, a quick glance at his resume, which is very impressive, reveals that he's held every non-commissioned officer grade from PV2 to CSM. That required ongoing training, self-discipline, study, and commitment. As you all know, promotions are earned based upon hard work and increased competence. In short, Aaron had to become technically and tactically competent. He had to impose some self-discipline on himself to gain that competence. Along the way, he attended all of the pertinent non-commissioned officer schooling, and he held permanent leadership roles up to and including Brigade Command Sergeant Major. And it was in this role as a Brigade Command Sergeant Major that I was first introduced to Aaron. You see, I served in the 654th Regional Support Group in 2011 as the unit's commander when Aaron came to me as my new Command Sergeant Major. And two things about Aaron impressed me the most: his absolute commitment to serving soldiers, which you heard Colonel Norquist today speak about as well. That absolute commitment to serving soldiers, and his unwavering integrity. Sometime after I departed the command, Aaron was also selected to serve for a short time as the interim Division Command Sergeant Major, in large part because of this integrity and commitment to soldiers. And since 2020, Aaron has brought those same leadership skills here to the 1364 Training Support Battalion, where integrity and competence is at the core of what you do. Aaron has an equally impressive civilian resume, attaining both a bachelor's and a master's degree in public administration and business, which support his work on the civilian side as a city manager for the city of Oregon, where he and his wife and family reside. Now, we don't have time today to delve into all of the intricacies of his assignments, his achievements, and all of his history. So in preparing for today's remarks, I asked Aaron a few questions that I warned him in advance I would share, pick and choose what I want to share with you. So the first question I asked him was, please describe the 3 most influential people in your Army career and why and how they impacted you. Pretty good question. So here are his responses. Remember, I asked him for 3. So he gave me 4, which is always the way that this works with Aaron. There's always some additional amount. But first, he said, Sarah Jane, his bride of 37 years, a close confidant supporting me through thick and thin, good and bad. For 37, he characterized wonderful years. Second, he identified his mother, Gladys Burke, who taught me how to play and enjoy life. She was and is always there, even when the situation is not so good. Third, his father-in-law, Paul Peters, taught me to dig until I found bedrock. He continues to be a great sounding board. And then finally, Chaplain Edmiston, his first Army chaplain, who believed in him as a young private and taught him that when he was going to go procure things for himself, to buy not just one item, but to buy 3. One for Jesus, his faith, one for someone else, and one for himself. Second question I asked Aaron was, please describe the most memorable events of your career, good or bad, and what you learned from these events. I'm going to share 2 of those with you. First one was, as a young private, he said, standing for integrity. There was an officer who asked him to lie. I'm sad to hear that. But there was an officer who asked him to lie, and even when Aaron thought that it could be career-ending, he refused. Integrity. Second event, it's about caring for people and encouraging people to go the long way, go the distance. I would call it reaching for excellence in all that you do. And so he talks about the case of a young soldier who had struggled to pass the PT test since basic training. She got through basic, but then really struggled for 2 to 3 years thereafter. And Aaron was breathing life into her, giving her encouragement and compassion. And he said, quote, I care and she can overcome and never give up, is what he was breathing into her. And so he recalls and recounts the case when she was at the APFT event, passed for the first time in like 3 years, and she was screaming for the command sergeant major to be able to celebrate with her. How awesome is that? Breathing life into individuals. Today, that same soldier is working on her promotion to E7, and her life is great, and she's doing really well and continues to pass the PT test. And then I asked him any advice that he would have to offer for new enlistees today. New enlistees. He offered 3 things for new enlistees. 1, remember it is not about image, not what we do or look like or present, but instead it is about character from the inside out. However, Aaron counsels, our image is always reflective of our character, so don't discount both. Develop both. Second thing he offered, be accountable and responsible. Husband to wife, leader to subordinate, parent to children, in whatever role that you have, be accountable and responsible. This helps to avoid what we call communication problems. And then finally, he said, always consider the end game or the end state, not just what is immediately before you. And of course, before him right now, one of the biggest ones is retirement and life. And so he's asking questions about and encouraging you to think about leaving a legacy and taking care of yourself and your family. My final question for Aaron was, what would you offer to the families and supporters gathered here today? And here's what he responded, typical fashion. Hats off and thank you for allowing me to serve these many years and for attending today's events. He wasn't focused on self. He's focused on you. And so I would like to sum up from my perspective so much of what I have observed from Command Sergeant Major Aaron Palmquist and his incredible career over these years. So these are now my observations of his life. I think 3 things stand out about Aaron that are good for all of us and applicable no matter your time in this life. First, you must seek technical and tactical competence. You have to be good at what you do. Spur yourself on to excellence in everything that you do if you want to see yourself accomplish things over time. Choose excellence. Secondly, Do not compromise on your integrity, no matter the cost. Do not compromise on your integrity. Live the Army values. Do not compromise your integrity. And third, invest in people. Care for soldiers. Invest in people, because this life is about relationship. Our Army is about fighting and winning this nation's wars, and that happens only by people. People employed in organizations that deliver competence and are able to deliver tactical effects, strategic effects to win our nation's wars. Choose to invest, you young soldiers. If you want to aspire to this kind of level, choose to invest in the same kinds of things that Aaron's footsteps teach you. Be competent in all that is set before you. Commit to a life of integrity and invest in people. And finally, in closing, I would like to say and extend a personal note of thanks, Aaron. Thank you for being a great battle buddy over the years. I'm incredibly proud of you. Thank you for choosing to invest your life in serving soldiers. Our nation is so very appreciative that you answered the call of service. And to Sarah Jane and your delightful family, thank you all for supporting Aaron all of these many years. It is truly a family endeavor. There's no way that Aaron could have done any of these things without your support. So thank you for all that you've done. Know that he leaves a lasting legacy of building and encouraging people, for which we are all so grateful. We know the journey has not always been easy, but we hope it has been meaningful. Best wishes to all of you for a wonderful retirement in the next chapter in your life of service. And may God richly bless you and all of your future endeavors. Thank you.
At this time, we will honor Command Sergeant Major Palmquist, an item on behalf of the command.
All right, I asked my daughter how I did on the last one. She's like, you sounded like Charlie Brown, wah, wah, wah. So I'll try to do it with a little bit more emotion this time, but I do have to read. Thank you for always telling us how it is. All right, so I am amazed, and can you all believe that it's actually December already? Sergeant Major Palmquist, you've had the countdown to this weekend for the last 2 years, and I'm not sure if that has slowed down time or sped it up, but here we are today, your retirement. First, I want to start by thanking Sergeant Major Palmquist and his gracious wife, Sarah Jane, again, for, as you've heard, your 40 years of consecutive, selfless service in both peace and war to our nation. You've been such a light of leadership and a true friend over the last 33 months of my command. Major General Mayako already did most of the talking, so I'm going to get straight to the good stuff and present you with an award and all the certificates that are up here today. So Sergeant Major Palmquist, please come forward. Switch you.
This is a photo op, man. We should say this is a photo op.
All right, I'm going to explain this first. All right, so this is kind of a culminating piece of your 40-year career. Sergeant Major gave me his patches and his name tags, so you can see the 3 different uniforms that he's worn, and then all the battalions and units that he's been a part of. These are all the ranks that you've held, like you said, PV2 all the way through Command Sergeant Major. We did it on gold and black because those are the colors of the Chaplain's Corps, and you were a chaplain's assistant all the way through. So we have your chaplain in the pins, your flag, and then the inscription says, Command Sergeant Major Aaron L. Palmquist, in recognition of your invaluable leadership, faithful mentorship, countless accomplishments, and selfless service, never underestimate the difference you've made and the lives you've touched. Thank you for loving soldiers so well and laying down your life in service to the nation for over 40 years. And then a biblical quote from John 15:13. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. So from November of 1982 or October to January of 2023 when you officially retire. And the colors for your last battalion command. So thank you, Sergeant Major.
Come over this way.
Okay. photo op.
Okay, now where do you go now? Can I sit down?
No, you get to stay up here. So now we're going to get to go through all the certificates of appreciation from the Army. So.
Command Sergeant Major Palmquist will now be presented with a certificate of appreciation from the Commander-in-Chief. The Certificate of Appreciation for Service in the Armed Forces of the United States of America, Command Sergeant Major Aaron L. Palmquist. I extend my personal gratitude and the sincere appreciation of a grateful nation to you for your patriotic service to our country. Your bravery and dedication in our armed forces helped protect your fellow Americans during a critical moment in our history and contributed to a world of greater security and growing prosperity. Your devotion to duty, honor, and country, in keeping with the long tradition of the finest military in the world, embodied the American ideal of selfless service. Our nation owes you an incredible debt. Your commitment and the example you set will inspire future generations to serve with pride and keep their country secure. You represent the best of our nation, and I join our fellow Americans in saluting your honorable service. I wish you happiness and success in your next chapter. J.R. Biden, Commander-in-Chief. Then, Lieutenant Colonel Norquist takes the Certificate of Appreciation from First Lieutenant Liger, presents to Command Sergeant Major Palmquist, who returns the certificate to...
We did it. You don't need to read it.
Okay, we'll skip that. Command Sergeant Major Palmquist is being presented with a certificate of appreciation from the Chief of the United States Army Reserve. From the Department of the Army, Chief Army Reserve, certificate of appreciation to Command Sergeant Major Aaron L. Palmquist on the occasion of the completion of your active reserve service. I wish to extend to you me personal thanks and the sincere appreciation of the United States Army for your devotion to duty and the many years of outstanding service which you have given to our country. Jody Daniels, Chief of the Army Reserve. Lieutenant Colonel Norquist will now present Mrs. Palmquist with a certificate of appreciation. The certificate of appreciation to all who see these presents, greetings. This is to certify that Sarah Jane Palmquist, on the occasion of the retirement of your spouse from the United States Army, has earned grateful appreciation for her own unselfish, faithful, and devoted service. Your unfailing support and understanding helped to make it possible your spouse's lasting contributions to this nation. Signed, James C. McConville, General, United States Army Chief of Staff. Command Sergeant Major Palmquist will now be presented with a retirement flag. Command Sergeant Major Palmquist will now be presented with the U.S. Army Retired Lapel Pin. After over 40 years of service, Command Sergeant Major Palmquist is being presented a certificate of retirement. The certificate of retirement from the United States of America to all who shall see these present greetings. This is to certify that Command Sergeant Major Aaron L. Palmquist, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Army on the 20th day of January, 2023. Signed, James C. McConville, General, United States Army Chief of Staff.
Whoa!
Ladies and gentlemen, Command Sergeant Major Palmquist.
General Marco, thank you. Try not to cry. Yes, I do have emotion. It's okay to have emotions, right? And I'm not going to pull the glasses out. I should. but I made the words big enough, so I probably will still mess it. But it seems like just yesterday I joined the Army. And today marks a very critical moment of my life when I'm still now trying to look back. And as General Mayako did really well, and I appreciate that, sir, I am glad that I chose you, as you have covered most all of the bases, so I can be brief. But today I want to just give honor, first and foremost, where it truly belongs, and that is to my God. And I want to say I did start out, and I still hold the MOS as a chaplain assistant, and I want to say thank you, Chaplain Estes, for coming and doing the invocation and the benediction. Good friend. And I have others that are here, Cecil Rock, an employer. Thank you, Cecil, for being here. Old man, I'm still young. Colonel retired Eric Benson, my brother, in arms, in everything. We've known each other for many, many years, and he's been there. I would challenge all of us gentlemen to find a friend. I have at least two that stay in contact with me, and that's General Mayako, who lives close to me, and I appreciate that, in his family. But also for Eric, that over the years, the last 40 years, Eric has been there. He'd pick up the phone. How you doing, Aaron? Sergeant Major, how you doing? We did some crazy things together. I won't get into that, but I want to say thank you. But first and foremost is to my God. And I would be remiss if I would not say it as General Mayako said to my wife, Sarah Jane. She's been through a lot. Yes, soldiers, we put our spouses through a lot. Give them credit where it's due, the thick and the thin. And it's not always been a pretty picture, but to keep going and look at the end game. Her and my family have provided support and strength to make this a full journey. In my final unit assignment, I wish there would have been more time to Sergeant Major Robert Keith. The time we spent, the conversations. I'm sad that he's an active duty soldier, but that doesn't matter. He's still a brother in arms, not only as a command sergeant major, but a person of faith, and he's a senior NCO. Thank you, Robert. I'm glad you're here, Colonel Barnes. It's been great, and I wish I was around, and I might. You'll just have to let me know. He's soon to move on too, and it'll be fun. Maybe I'll go to Walmart, I don't know, or Lowe's. To all the leaders and soldiers, each of you have made this worthwhile. I'll be honest that I took an assignment to come back to a battalion to say I want to have, in my last years, somewhat quieter. That's been a lie. It's been a lot. We've done stuff. I've learned a lot everywhere I've been as a leader, all the way from a private on up, and for 17 years as a command sergeant major. I've gotten to where I am because of the leaders, and more importantly, the soldiers. That's you guys. Remember, you are touching lives even when you don't know that you're touching lives. It might be from the cooks to the supply sergeants. You're impacting people's lives, and you make a difference. Just remember that. I've had the opportunity to serve as a senior NCO, but again, I got here by the grace of God, not because I was bad. I only hold one MOS. That's a chaplain assistant. That is not heard of in today's world. So I would challenge you also to add to what General Mayako said. What I could leave with you is get some other MOSs. If you've got a combat arms, OCTs, get another one. That's the honest truth. If you don't have a secondary MOS and you only have combat arms, Santa Claus, Sergeant Lopez, you're not. He did. He got another secondary MOS. You're not going to make Command Sergeant Major in the Army Reserve anymore. That's the rule on the street. It's changing. So if you want to excel and achieve the higher rank, you've got to get multiple MOSs. For those who came, those long distance, again, thank you. Even, and as I'm speaking, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas. It's snowing. Lieutenant Colonel Norquist, I want to say thank you for serving as my last commander and working to serve not only myself but others. Thank you. I know John's not here. Major Norquist. Tell him thank you. And the kids. super kids. The final adventure on Friday was a memorable one. I started out as a chaplain assistant, private, and I was in an Army hospital, and I had the privilege of flying with our aviation unit. I flew on Hueys and Blackhawks when they finally got away and did away with the Hueys. That was an experience. It was fun at Fort Riley, Kansas. That was my first duty assignment, and I loved flying. They'd always call me up and say, "You want out of the hospital? You want to come flying?" You better believe I went flying. So on Friday, we did some training with the local aviation unit, and Colonel Norquist set that up. Unbeknownst to me, it was just a training event, but she did some things to honor me, and thank you, ma'am. It was fun, it was exhilarating, and it was better than any carnival ride you could have. Isn't that right, Captain King? Right, sir? It was an experience. Sergeant Blaine can tell you more about that offline. But it was fun, it was worth it, and every soldier in this command, it has been great in that flight. Final flight was worth it. Thank you, ma'am. May each of you continue to be blessed and enjoy this time of the season, Christmas, which is a time of giving. This afternoon, go have fun with your families. Enjoy. I'll be bowing out. We have a new Command Sergeant Major on scene, so I'm not just hiding and running away. It's part of military protocol. I'm going to leave, but I won't be forgotten. Let's stay in touch. Remember, this is a big family. The Army is a family. Don't ever go and say, "Hey, I'm divorced, I'm gone." 40 years. I'll be 60 in January, so I have to leave. That's part of why I'm leaving. You have to as a soldier in reserve. But 40 years of my 60 years have been given to this Army and to this great family. You're all part of that, whether you're in uniform or you're a civilian that supports it. So give. Take the time to give around Christmas time. When the Creator of the universe gave, this time we celebrate. And again, take care, and God bless each of you. God bless the United States of America.
Lieutenant Colonel Norquist will now give her closing remarks.
Sergeant Major Palmquist, you are a large man, and I don't mean large, I mean tall, compared to me. But more importantly than being a physical giant, you are a moral giant. You have incredible moral courage, and you've helped lead the soldiers under your care through difficult times. You've done that with enormous grace and enormous distinction, and your legacy will absolutely live on in the years to come. Not just here in the 1364, but I'm sure in all the units you've been a part of. So thank you. God bless you. And as you move on to the next chapter of your life. And remember, Sarah Jane isn't the one retiring today, so she does still get her ladies' weekend once a month. You have to find somewhere else to go. So, to our distinguished guests, families, and soldiers, thank you all again for being here today. Thanks for supporting Sergeant Major Palmquist in one way or another. And at large, thank you. And thank you for supporting the Army and our nation. So, I guess that was for me. Yeah. All right. So, one last time from my family, thank you, Sergeant Major Handquist. Your daughter's giving you a heart over there. Thank you for your friendship and your support. And again, God bless you as you go on to the next chapter of your life.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the benediction.
To everything there is a season, a time for every purpose under heaven. Ecclesiastes 3:1. May the peace of God that passes all understanding cover us as we leave this place today. In your name we pray. Amen.
This concludes the retirement ceremony and today's events. Thank you for helping us honor the career and service of Command Sergeant Major Palmquist. His professionalism and dedication to duty will be missed. We wish him the very best in his future endeavors And we invite everyone to get selfies with Command Sergeant Major Palmquist at your earliest convenience. And then we would like to invite everyone to take a moment to welcome Command Sergeant Major Vine and say goodbye to Command Sergeant Major Palmquist and his family. Please join us for refreshments and have a wonderful rest of your day.